2025. So I see uh, Jeff and Charlotte there. Would either of you like to say anything by way of introduction?
I don't mind.
Sure.
If
Thanks, Brian. Go ahead, Charlotte.
um,
I don't think they
Brian,
can hear me.
the Board of Assessors met on December 19th to ask, we had to accept the resignation of Wendy Rogers. And at that meeting, we requested or made the request is fine of Marcy if she would care to become our third member on the Board of Assessors. That would run until actually the caucus, at which point, not till May, but it would run until the caucus, at which point there would be a formal nomination of Marcy in normal protocol. It's been requested that we repeat that vote that we made on November 19th to be on record with you, and we're happy to do that. And Jeffrey, if you want to make a motion that the Board of Assessors accept Marcia Nani until the 2025 caucus.
May I interrupt? I'm sorry. It actually, at the caucus, you can nominate her again, but the
Right.
term actually is until the election. That's when a new person would be voted in. So the agenda was correct.
Right. We can't, not to split hairs. Why don't we, Jeffrey, to save time so everybody can do something else with their evening. Jeffrey, if we have a motion, the Board of Assessors to accept Marcy Nani as a member of our board, filling the remaining term of Wendy Rogers. Do you want to make that motion, Jeffrey?
You'll just have to unmute yourself.
Oh, Jeffrey,
Jeff.
Jeffrey, I think you're on mute. You want to get rid of your little microphone. Don't you love this?
Okay. Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
Terribly
can.
sorry.
No,
Charlotte, I'll second your motion to nominate Marcy Nomi for the Board of Assessors.
And I,
Aye.
and be it so resolved.
All right. Great, thank you. Is Marcy here? Does she want to say anything to introduce herself to folks that may not know her?
Actually, until she's on the Board of Assessors, we couldn't have, since this was listed as a meeting of the Board of Assessors, until you approve of that nomination, we couldn't have her here. But she's,
Brian, I can tell you she was an assessor in the town of Burlington previous to this, which is highly unusual for anybody to have any experience coming onto the board. It's the first time that an assessor is really an assessor coming on. So we feel very fortunate to have her.
there were no further nominate on the request that you put out that was published. There were no other people that requested to become part of the board. Is that right,
Okay.
Brian?
That's my understanding. I think Jenny or Marie would chime in if there were. No, I'm seeing shaking heads. So yes, you're right. Any questions from the select board about this?
Not for me.
No, given her experience, she sounds like she'll be a great fit.
Yep.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion by the select board to appoint Marcy Noni to serve on the Board of Assessors for a term until May 2025.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Kate,
Yes.
Stan,
Yes.
and I'm also yes. So I think we've done what needed doing.
I appreciate it. This has been long and drawn out, but we appreciate it very much.
Thank you both, and thank
Thank
you.
you.
So, thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
Good night.
How do you shut this off?
Okay, great. Next up, we have some time with our Bolton representatives to the Neshoba Regional School Committee to discuss Bolton's financial outlook for FY 26. And since I know there are going to be several of us that are kind of in the mix when it comes to this discussion, I just have two procedural things that I'd request is if you have a question or a comment, please use this goes for all of us. Please use the Zoom feature to either raise your hand or whatever, flag that you have something to say. I guess before, I'm going to turn it over to Marie, our town administrator, to walk through some information. But before I do that, could I just ask the two members of our school committee who are here to just briefly say their names again? I know everybody here knows them, but for anybody that's watching, let's start with Amy, the veteran.
Yeah, hi. My name's Amy Cohen. I think this is my 5th year serving on the school committee. I've got 2 more years left on my term. I guess I'm looking forward to opening up the conversation on the budget and happy to answer any questions the best that I can.
Great, thank you.
And I am Robin Palema. Amy's 5 years is equivalent to my 5 meetings that I've maybe been to on the school committee. So, maybe 2 months in, but happy to be here and happy to listen, learn, and answer what questions I can.
Well, thank you both for your service, whether it be 5 years or 5 meetings. I know it's a lot of work. So with that, I would like to invite our town administrator, Marie, to kind of tee things up for us.
Alrighty. At the risk of sounding like something that's going to be deadly dull, let me just ask it, Jenny, can I just share something? I just want to share one thing, just to present a picture of where Bolton is. And you may have heard this, I've broached this also in conversations which have been very helpful with the superintendent. It's really early in the budget process, and we appreciate you guys coming in at this point in the cycle. And we know that in your own role as school committee representatives, where per MASC, you have to balance the resources and the needs. You won't be seeing the school's capital request for a while, and you won't be seeing the district operating budget. Wanted to let you know, in effect, the town has gotten a bit of a jump start, and I wanted to provide some context because your job is, in effect, meeting the needs of the school, balancing the needs of the district, as well as representing that you, too, are a taxpayer of the municipality. I realize, and I've heard from folks, that people say it's a bad budget year. Every year is a terrible budget year. If I could raise that to the nth power, though, I would say 2 different things. One is that it's a terrifically bad budget year as we look ahead to fiscal 26. The other, though, is that fiscal 27 does not look as bad. So that's a bit of a nuance. I'm giving you the straight perspective. before folks start to fade away with municipal finance, you may have heard this in your own sessions and in earlier budget discussions. We as a municipality basically have a few revenue categories. It's the tax levy, local receipts, say dog fees, a tiny smidgen of state aid, and then all other. Right now, our all other in fiscal 25 is 900,000 of free cash as from the prior fiscal year, and 100,000 of ARPA, as well as some small transfers. Much like the school has its own revolving funds, we've transferred in some funds from ambulance and park and rec. We can look at fiscal 25 and say, well, that looks relatively healthy. But you notice how the all other, the deadly purple, is a large component. For the upcoming year, starting in July, we will have a drastically reduced all other category. Our free cash, which we're using currently to the tune of 900,000, was recently certified for fiscal 24 for us to put in for 26. And in total, it was only 760,000. Even a little more unnerving, 350,000 of that was always carried over. When you hear about free cash, it's not free per se. It's basically the unexpended funds at the close of the prior year. Given that we hold back 350,000, in effect, our free cash, the unexpended funds that we go to town meeting and seek an appropriation, it's only about 1.3%. It'd be the equivalent of, you have your salary, you're running your household budget, and you're only expecting to have 1% remaining at the end. What this means in translation is we're really dependent on the tax levy. And as a taxpayer in the town, I'm sure that you know that. The thing about free cash is that it's variable, not entirely predictable, and pretty much not recurring. So ideally, it should only be used for one-time expenses, such as capital. And I know my predecessor has looked at the availability of free cash when making his determinations as for what to fund for capital. I would be doing the same, but again, our free cash is notably low. I realize that the school will go through its own capital requests that department heads and school leadership will be putting forward. Wanted to also raise, we do the same thing. The focus from my perspective is operations that touch the entire town as well as school. So we're all, all one. And in the height of irony, having this meeting on a snowy day, I am concerned about long deferred requests for capital, such as 2 DPW pieces of equipment, as well as sanding. Each vehicle is over 20 years old, and we're all dependent on those vehicles to keep the roads clear so the buses can go, so that folks can get to work. There are likewise other things on this, such as shared services. DEP has recommended an upgrade to the wastewater treatment plant. Randy, the DPW director, Mr. Hegland, has secured an estimate. That in itself is 248,000. In effect, asking, just be patient, and we're prioritizing things that affect both the town as well as school taxpayers, as well as the individuals who are driving through. Our other revenues are tax from the tax levy and local receipts. We've had a great run of building on our increase in the new growth generated as well as tax levy generated revenues. Our local receipts are the equivalent of fines and fees and permits. The numbers I've highlighted, though, indicate the change in effect from year to year, the net change. And so as we're looking at our budgets, these are the things that we're focusing on to address the additive expenses that are coming up. I fully acknowledge that the town and school have very similar additive expenses. We're wincing at our Worcester Regional assessment, and we're apprehensive about our health insurance increase, and we know that Neshoba is facing the same thing. But for our local receipts, it's highly variable. Earlier, prior to some building permits, due to people buying fewer used cars and a delayed opening for a marijuana facility, I'd been concerned that I would go into a mid-year discretionary spending freeze. We're basically past that point now, but we're not fully in the clear. In our dependable revenues, tax levy and new growth, because one can't, the variability of local receipts is not dependable. The variability of free cash, not entirely dependable. The largest factor is the operating assessment. I'm only looking at the operating assessment. I know the town and the taxpayers definitely support the construction of the new school as prior debt. And it's indicative in effect of the town's value of valuing education. What we are focused on is just looking at the year-to-year change in the operating assessment and how that, in effect, with that change, has consumed large components of our 2.5 allowable. The select board met on Monday night. I presented a follow-up to an earlier sort of gloom and doom presentation, and they're well aware that the loss of those one-time funds in 25 is going to give them a menu of really unpalatable choices, which would affect the services that all of the residents are receiving. We know that as elected school committee members that you're obligated to look at the needs and resources and will be, I guess, shown the budget for the school in the coming weeks. We just wanted to highlight and take this opportunity to highlight that when you're presented with incremental needs, say from the district, be aware though that those incremental needs would be funded by reductions in municipal services in your community. So that's
Great.
my spiel. It's municipal finance. It's not the world's most exciting thing, but we wanted to convey our concerns.
Thank you. Thank you, Marie. And I know Amy and we've had a bunch of conversations over the years about municipal finance stuff. Robin, some of this stuff may be a little bit newer to you, but if either of you have questions for us or for Marie to try to understand the context she provided, please ask. And just to underscore, Marie, it's roughly $1 million gap right now that we're looking at between what we think our expenses on the town side would be versus what the revenue that we're projecting for
Correct. For fiscal 26.
Yeah.
That was a really great presentation. And it had a lot of information in it. I was kind of struggling to see it at the scale that it was on my screen.
I'll send out.
But I mean, I think that the takeaway was not hard to miss. And I am trying to tie the number that Brian just mentioned, the $1 million gap, to what you just presented.
Okay.
If you could maybe explain that a little bit better.
Sure. For the current fiscal year, fiscal 25, where we are, the town was able to put $900,000 of free cash certified in the prior year into the operating budget, in addition to $100,000 of ARPA funds into the operating budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is captured in the Finance Committee warrant booklet. This year, our free cash certification number is much lower, basically half at that. As per usual, we'll hold back $350,000, and as it stated at town meeting in the spring, we're engaging in paying back the stabilization fund too. So we're looking at $295,000 all told, and no other secret levers that would be available. I've, no other drawers of money.
The other thing, I guess, Amy, that may be helpful to understand is that when the select board met on Monday, and I think the conversations we've been having with Marie up to this point about what we expect for the town's operating budget in FY26, it's been based on some historical assumptions on what the rate of change or growth has been in different town departments. And so although we'll be getting our operating budgets from all of the departments over the next week or so, even using very conservative projections, we think we have a sense of where the town is going to end up for FY26. And then on the revenue side, it still looks to be $1 million gap. Of course, as you know, the number one biggest component of our town's operating budget is the education component, which is Neshoba and Minuteman. And so, like, the increase, or the change, I should say, to that component will also have a huge effect on what the ultimate delta is between revenue and expenses. Another way of saying this is if you came to us and said, hey, guess what? We've got a 1% increase in our assessment this year. Like, that could really change all of our, make a lot of our problems go away, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, that seems like an unlikely scenario, although our budget workshop, where we will get really the first pass of the superintendent's budget, is January. So, this is definitely good information for us to have for us to go into that presentation, and be able to think critically about the information that's being presented to us. I mean, I know that our contracts have been negotiated for a 3-year period, and we're on year 2 of that, and those have raises built into them that are more than 1%. And I know that our school district budget, 2/3 of it is salary. So it would be really hard to get to a 1% increase. But again, we haven't heard the superintendent's presentation. And as you know, throughout our conversations throughout the years, Brian, so many factors are out of our control. Special education costs, regional transportation reimbursement, Chapter 70 funding, circuit breaker funds, like all of the things that a lot of our revenue sources, we don't even know until, March or later. So it's just really hard to know what that number is going to end up being. And I do also know that the superintendent starts this outreach process with the director of finance and operations. And have they already met with the advisory board or the board of selectmen? Yeah, no.
Not yet.
Okay.
Yet.
But that is part of the process. So really sure what else I can add. Robin, I see Robin's hand is up.
Go ahead, Robin.
I just have a question, actually. Sorry, it's not. What is I guess I don't understand. What is it that we pay to Minuteman?
It's
vocational.
also, there's an operating assessment. We have obviously there's several member towns in Minuteman. Bolton is one of the smaller member communities, but we have an assessment. We're subject to a regional agreement, and that number is computed based on the number of students that we have there, kind of on a rolling average. And in addition, there's also a capital portion of their assessment that's included as well. Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, I think I was able to make out from the information that Marie had up that the assessments from Minuteman are going up also. And I think if you were to break it down by student. One thing that I observed, I guess, when I started digging deeper into the numbers is that it behooves, financially, there is an incentive to keep as many kids in district, in the Neshoba district as possible, because the cost to educate the students within Neshoba is less than the cost to educate a student at Minuteman. Based on the last time I looked at the numbers, and you divide the assessment by the number of students that are attending each school. So, I mean, I think that is one of the reasons why it, you know, we have to just, I don't want to make it all about dollars and cents, but it is important to make investments in our own district so that we can retain students.
Any other comments or questions? How about from the select board? Nope. Well, listen, we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules on a Thursday, but we thought better to kind of share the context early in the conversation so that you head into that budget meeting in January, you kind of know the picture for Bolton.
Thank you very much. I have heard that, I think it's already on the radar that it's going to be a tough budget season. That's about as much as I know.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for your partnership and for serving on the school committee. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
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 Okay, so Nikki, you are good because I saw that camera come on as soon as we were rolling into the next agenda item.
I'm good at timing.
Next up, we have Nikki McGackie from Bolton Access Television with her quarterly request for release of funds. So go ahead, Nikki.
Thanks, guys. So this is for Q3 of 2024. It came in at $22,265, which unfortunately is about $2,000 lower from the previous quarter. So we're also taking a bit of a hit, but we expect it. So on the good side, we did actually finally receive a couple checks from the employee retention credit from the IRS, which we filed, I think, 2 years ago. We were not sure we were ever going to see anything from that, but so that's good. That, you know, shores up that loss a little bit there. Otherwise, that's pretty much it on the money side of things that we've got for this particular quarter.
This is a busy season for you, right?
It is, yeah. We just finished up 2 concerts. We'll be streaming the Concord Band's Holiday Pops next weekend. We're working on the Bolton Christmas tree lighting, putting together a cute little slideshow video for that. And of course, lots of government meetings.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you for that. Any questions from the board? No. Well, thank you and your team as always for all the good work you do. And I think with that, is there a motion to approve the request for the release of $22,265.24 for the Q3 operating expenses of Bolton Access Television?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. Thank you, Nikki.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, Nikki. Have a good one.
All right. Next up, we have some annual licenses to review and approve. I know that we had the lists included in our packets. I don't know if anybody needs or wants Jenny to share her screen. Does anybody need that?
No.
And just so that folks at home are aware, it's basically 3 categories of licenses. We have 2025 liquor license renewals, 2025 common victualler license renewals, and 2025 Class 2 license renewals. I guess one procedural question, and which I'm just forgetting, do we have to read through these? Do I need to read these out loud as we approve them? Sorry, was that yes, Stan?
No, I was just coughing.
Jenny, do you happen to know, or Marie?
You can vote them as a bulk, and I'm happy to show my screen if that's helpful.
Sure, that would be great.
Give me just a minute, but you could proceed with the vote.
Actually, you know what? I think I can share my screen, so you don't have to worry about it. Can you see this?
Yep.
So first we have this set of common victualler licenses. You can see the name of the entity and the address. The two entities with the stars, the asterisks next to them, have a couple of items outstanding, and so we just need to make our vote contingent upon receipt of all the documentation and fees and completion of inspections. So I guess what I would first say is I'd entertain a motion to approve the common.
Well, actually, Brian, before you do that, there are a couple on here that I'm not sure, and maybe they need to be on the list for some procedural thing. But Baba and the Legacy Kitchen has closed, as well as the liquor license associated with that entity. And I don't know if it needs to be approved just as a holding for whoever's going to purchase the entity. And Colonial Candies has been closed for quite some time, so I don't know why that's on the list, but maybe there's a good reason for it.
Jenny, do you happen to know the answer to those questions?
I
Or
do.
Marie?
The Baba and the Legacy Kitchen is actually the entity that is renewing the license. They need more time to get some paperwork together to have the transfer take place. I know the select board voted on it a few months back, but the ABCC was not satisfied with all of the documentation. So this allows them to proceed, because if we missed this renewal process, the license would go away and they would
Okay.
need to go to town meeting and home rule petition in order to get a new license. So Marie and I met with the owners of the Bolton Exchange a few weeks back, and the owners of the Bolton Exchange and the owner and the manager of Baba came into town hall about a week ago, and we now have all of the documentation we need to proceed with the transfer. As for Colonial Candies, I did not realize that their doors were closed. I have not heard back from the emails and the letter that I sent out for renewal. So I wanted to keep them on the list, but if the vote is contingent upon receipt of the documentation and they don't submit it, then there would be no
Okay.
license issued.
Sounds good.
Great, thanks, Jenny. So let's take the common victualler licenses first. I'd entertain a motion to approve the common victualler licenses for the entities listed here, with the note that for Bolton Spring Farm and Colonial Candies, the licenses are contingent upon receipt of all documentation and fees and completion of inspections.
So moved.
Second that?
Okay, roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. Next, is there a motion to approve the Class 2 license for Castro Auto Repair?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. And then finally, the alcoholic beverages licenses. Is there a motion to approve alcoholic beverages licenses for the entities listed below?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call. Stan?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. Okay. Great. Thank you, Jenny and Marie, for getting all that paperwork together.
I want to highlight, actually, Jenny had gone the extra mile and then some with regards to resolving and assisting the Bolton Exchange with their licensure.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. Okay, now back to you, Marie, for our town administrator report.
Well, at least it's not more of the grim budget news, at least something more exciting. In terms of projects, as folks are likely aware, the blasting is complete at 580 Main. The work will be continuing, and through the month of December, they're expecting the excavation and the footings for their clubhouse and their garage building. If you're aware, the select board's advocacy for ARPA funds being used to investigate the cost to repair the emergency egress at Town Hall is complete in terms of field investigations, and now the DPW director is waiting on the costing estimates. As a public service message, folks may have received this likewise. The DPW at DPW Town of Bolton is avidly seeking public comments on the hazard mitigation plan. This plan enables us to get funding for infrastructure projects. Under buildings, the library director has been terrifically patient as we've had rain for the first time in a long time. And as such, when it rains, it pours. There's been a bunch of water infiltration at the library. Wanted to keep that on folks' radar. The DPW director has secured contractors for repairing the small roof. There are also issues with the large roof and the membrane. And most concerningly, there are many cracked terracotta tiles that are also enabling water infiltration. We're trying to trace down a place that makes those terracotta tiles, as the initial estimates were astronomical. DPW continues to seek a full-time labor transfer station attendant. Hope we can pick up some applications. And likewise, under recruiting, the police department is continuing its active recruitment. During this past week, I'd sent out 3 conditional offers for full-time positions, and the chief and the lieutenant are engaged in background checks. A little notice to residents watching, the public hours for Town Hall on Tuesday, December 24th will be from 9 a.m. to 12:30 versus 4:30 p.m. For the board's information, the personnel policies, which would be used to supplement Bolton's personnel bylaw, have been compiled. They're under review by 2 department heads and then will be sort of finally codified and sent out. I've sent the board the table of contents under separate cover. I'm also very happy to send a draft preview document. And wanted to convey the Park and Rec expresses their appreciation for a very, very chilly simultaneous holiday tree lighting. They're appreciative of the volunteers and the Boy Scouts, the 8th grade fundraisers, the police for directing traffic, as well as for Santa. On Tuesday, following the select board's meeting on Monday night, advisory met. They've covered a look back of fiscal 24 and also started in the discussion of what does 26 look like. They have taken up my request to also be another set of eyes and give more scrutiny to the capital plan. And so that has been shipped out to the committee. Their next meeting is in January. And under separate cover, the treasurer collector has provided a summary of the tax title auction, which had happened last month.
Great. Thanks for that overview. Any questions for Marie about that?
I just wanted to give feedback on the personnel policy draft, which I think really looks fabulous. You know, it's really good to see having something this fulsome. I think it's long overdue. So thank you for drafting that.
Okay. Well, then I guess we're actually ahead of schedule now. Go us. We'll move into select board business. Stan or Kate, do you have any public service announcements?
Nope, not tonight.
Maybe not.
I actually just want to echo what Marie said about the tree lighting that Parks and Rec and all their volunteers put together on Sunday. It was a great event. The vocalists that came out, I'm sorry, I don't remember all their names, but we had three young ladies who sang. They were terrific. And it was just a really great community event. I thought the place looked terrific. All right, future agenda items discussion. Anything from you or Stan or Kate?
Yes, actually, a couple things. One, just to reiterate, certainly would like to have Chief LaShawna come in to talk about the ALS program. We touched briefly at our last meeting, and I sent to Jenny some information. I think we do need to have a follow-on conversation with our school committee reps and perhaps Marie with the district, information based on the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education report card. The latest one in terms of where the schools in Bolton stand, Florence Sawyer, and also the high school. I think that's important to have that discussion with our school committee reps and the district. I think it would also be beneficial, Marie, maybe if you could reach out to the other town administrators and perhaps also the school committee if they're so inclined. It's been about 4 years since we have had a tri-town meeting. That stopped at the end of 2020. And I've had some conversations with some other folks in other towns, and I think that it might be useful to start that back up again. Maybe if you could reach out to uh, your equivalents in the other two towns to see what the appetite might be and whether or not the school committee would be interested in doing that. I think that would be valuable to restart that, especially in the times they are with issues with budgets and all that good stuff. And then I also would like to have a follow on to a discussion we had some time ago relative to non-criminal fines. And maybe bring in our town clerk to see where we might want to make some adjustments to that. And there might be some other fines we want to look at in terms of fines that are codified within the bylaws, such as, the stone wall removal and those kinds of things relative to the scenic road bylaw and the like. But I think it's important we do that because the non-criminal fines, that will need to be an article if we decide to move forward with that on the annual town meeting. So we need to get moving on that if we so choose.
Yeah, that I had forgotten about that timing issue. That's a good point, Stan.
Yeah.
Marie, it looked like you were gonna jump in on the Chief Legendre.
Yes, I contacted him and relayed the interest in update. He would not be available for the board's meetings in December, but is available in January. And
Great.
Cool.
sharing his materials.
Okay, next up, select board budget review, which I can share my screen. So, and Kate, this is your first go around, but the select board does have its own little section for budget each year. This is what it has been for the past few years, and then the requested. Marie, I guess you just put those numbers in because I didn't do it.
No, let
Okay.
me clarify and say Jenny worked assiduously because she is the keeper and source of knowledge. So all kudos. If there's something wrong with it, then it's my fault. But truly, she worked hard on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, did folks have questions or comments about the FY26 request, which looks like a total of $19,620? No.
No,
I don't know.
Me either. I think it all makes sense. So actually now I guess we're not approving this budget, but I think we're approving that it be included in the set of requests. So does somebody want to make a motion to approve this as our budget submission for FY26?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Kate,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. Okay. And then I believe that this is something that we do every year, but we do need to appoint an ADA coordinator for the town of Bolton. And so in our packets, we had a letter addressed to the grant program supervisor at the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, which would designate our town administrator, appoint our town administrator as the ADA coordinator for the town of Bolton. So I just need a motion to approve that.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Kate,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Is there a motion to approve the bills and payroll warrants W25-11 and W25-11A?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, roll call. Stan,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
great. And then we do have a couple sets of minutes, which with some changes, which, oh, look at Jenny, you are on top of your game. Sorry, just scroll back up to the top so we know what which date we're looking at, please. So these are the minutes for October 24th, regular session minutes for October 24th, 2024. Okay, were those just those changes there, Jenny? Yep. And
Sorry, I
then
couldn't get to my audio button while I was sharing. I
it
think
was just
that may have been the set that also had an erroneous paragraph that I might have accepted that change. It was carried over from another set of minutes, but it has been removed. And let me
Okay.
share the other set. Apologies, I'm working on a single screen and it's a challenge.
no worries, Jenny. Okay, so these are the regular session. You might have to. There you go. The regular session minutes for November 21st, 2024.
Nope, this is the set that had the. Can you hear
Got
me?
Yep,
This is the set that had the paragraph that was removed.
great. Okay. Thank you. So does somebody want to make a motion?
Were those, the dates were October 24th and November 21st, is that right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of October 24th and November 21st, 2024.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
I'm also a yes. And I think for the good of the order, we are ready to adjourn. Right? Anything else, Marie or Jenny? Nope, we're good. Somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Stan,
Yes.
sorry, Kate,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks Marie and Jenny. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Hey,
Have a good night, everybody.